Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of our English Learning Podcast. I'm Jimmy, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Sarah. Today, we have a really exciting topic for you, something that can completely change the way you speak English. We're talking about the secrets to speaking English naturally without using textbooks. That's right. No heavy grammar books, no boring exercises, no feeling stuck with long lists of rules. Just real English that sounds natural and confident.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy you're here with us today. And Jimmy, I really love this topic because I know so many learners who study for years with textbooks, but still feel nervous or slow when they have to speak in real life. I think we've all met someone who knows all the grammar rules, but struggles to have a simple conversation. So in this episode, we're going to give you practical tips, real-life examples, and personal stories to help you sound more natural, even if you're not living in an English.
If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the bell icon so you never miss an episode. If you're listening on a podcast app, make sure you follow us there too. We really appreciate your support because it helps us keep creating these free lessons for you.
All right, Jimmy, let's get into it. I think the first secret to speaking English naturally is to stop thinking in your native language all the time. I know that sounds difficult, but if you always translate in your head before you speak, you'll sound slow and unnatural. Instead, you want to start thinking directly in English, even with simple words and short phrases. For example, instead of thinking, how do I say this sentence in English? You can practice thinking, I'm hungry, or it's hot today, in English, without translating. It's a small habit, but over time, it makes a huge difference.
Yes, and the way to practice this is to surround yourself with English in your daily life. I'm not saying you have to move to London or New York, although that would be fun, but you can create an English environment wherever you are. For example, you can change the language on your phone to English. You can watch your favorite shows in English with subtitles. You can listen to English music or podcasts while you're doing chores. When you hear English every day, your brain starts to get used to the rhythm, the sound, and the patterns. That's how you start speaking more naturally.
And I think another important secret is to use real-life English, not just school English. What I mean is, textbooks often teach you very formal phrases, but in real life, people speak more casually. For example, a textbook might teach you to say, I am going to the store. But in everyday conversation, you'll often hear, I'm going to go to the store, or even just, I'm heading to the store. If you learn these natural expressions, you'll sound more like a native speaker.
And I think a lot of learners are afraid to use these casual expressions because they think they're wrong or not proper English. But actually, native speakers use them all the time. Of course, you should know the formal versions too, because you might need them for work or school. But if you want to sound natural in everyday conversation, you have to learn these real-life phrases. You can get them from movies, YouTube videos, or even by talking to native speakers online.
Speaking of talking to people online, I want to share something that helped me when I was learning another language. I found language exchange partners, people who wanted to learn my language, and in exchange, they helped me with theirs. We would talk on Zoom or Skype for 30 minutes in English and 30 minutes in their language. It was a great way to practice, and it didn't feel like studying. We laughed, shared stories, and sometimes made mistakes, but that's how I learned the natural flow of conversation.
Mistakes are actually your friends. I know that sounds strange, but think about it. Every time you make a mistake and someone corrects you, you learn something new. And the truth is, even native speakers make mistakes sometimes. So don't be afraid to speak because you're worried about being perfect. Perfection is not the goal, communication is. If people understand you and you understand them, that's already a win.
Yes, and actually, when you're learning to speak naturally, you don't need to know every single word. Many learners think they can't speak because they have a small vocabulary, but the reality is you can communicate a lot with simple words. For example, if you don't know the word refrigerator, you can just say, big cold box in the kitchen. People will laugh, but they'll understand you. Later, you can learn the exact word. The important thing is to keep the conversation going.
I love that example, Sarah. And here's another secret. Listen more than you speak at first. I know that sounds strange for a speaking tip, but when you listen carefully to how native speakers talk, you pick up the little things. the way they connect words, the intonation, the small expressions they use. For example, you might hear someone say, "You know what I mean?" at the end of a sentence. Or, "By the way," to change the topic. These small phrases make your speech sound natural and friendly.
That's true. And you can practice repeating what you hear. We call this shadowing. You listen to a short sentence, pause, and then repeat it, trying to copy the pronunciation, the rhythm, and even the emotion. At first it might feel silly, but it's a powerful way to train your mouth and your ears at the same time. It's like singing along to a song. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes.
Exactly. And remember, speaking naturally doesn't mean speaking quickly. A lot of learners think if I speak fast, I'll sound like a native speaker. But that's not true. Even native speakers pause, think, and sometimes repeat themselves. Speaking naturally is about sounding comfortable, confident, and clear. It's better to speak a little slower and be understood than to rush and confuse people.
I completely agree. Also, another thing that can help is using body language and facial expressions when you speak. This makes you look more confident and helps people understand you, even if you don't know the exact words. For example, if you're talking about something big, use your hands to show the size. If you're happy, smile. These small actions make your communication more natural.
I think that's one of the biggest secrets to speaking naturally. Even if your English is not perfect, if you speak with confidence, people will respond positively. You can build confidence by practicing in safe situations, with friends, with a language partner, or even by talking to yourself. Yes, talking to yourself in English is a great exercise. You can describe what you're doing, what you see, or what you're thinking. It might feel strange at first, but it works.
Yes, I do that too when I learn a language. For example, if I'm cooking, I'll say to myself, "I'm cutting the onions," or "I need to add some salt." It's a simple way to think and speak in English without pressure. Over time, it becomes more automatic, and when you're in a real conversation, the words come more easily.
Another secret is to focus on connection, not perfection. When you're talking to someone, your goal should be to connect with them, to share ideas and feelings. People remember how you made them feel more than whether your grammar was perfect. If you smile, listen, and respond naturally, you'll leave a good impression, even if you make small mistakes.
Yes, and to connect better, you can also learn some cultural phrases, little things people say in daily life that aren't in textbooks. For example, in English, if someone sneezes, you say "bless you." If you meet someone for the first time, you might say "nice to meet you," but in a casual setting, people might say, "Hey, how's it going?" Knowing these little cultural details makes you sound more natural.
Another way to learn these expressions is to watch real-life videos, not just English lessons, but interviews, vlogs, or even cooking shows in English. These show you how people really talk, not just how they talk in the classroom. You can pause the video, write down interesting phrases, and try using them yourself.
Yes, and when you start using them, you'll notice people respond to you differently. They might say, "Wow, your English sounds really good," because you're using the same phrases they use. It feels more natural and it makes conversations flow more easily.
And speaking of making conversations flow, another secret is to ask follow-up questions. If someone says, "I went to the beach last weekend," you can ask, "Oh, really? Which beach?" Or, "That sounds fun. What did you do there?" This shows you're interested and keeps the conversation going. In real life, conversations are like tennis. You hit the ball back and forth. If you just answer with yes or no, the conversation dies quickly.
Exactly. And when you practice this, you also learn how to think in English faster. At first, it might feel like your brain is working hard, but over time, it becomes more natural. You'll start to respond automatically without translating in your head.
Yes, and that's when speaking English starts to feel fun instead of stressful. You start enjoying the process, meeting new people,
Yes,
and learning
Jimmy,
new things.
and I think that's
without
one of the
even
most
realizing it.
beautiful parts of learning a language, when you stop thinking of it as study time and start feeling like it's part of your life. For example, if you're chatting with a friend, you're not thinking, "Oh, now I'm practicing English." You're just enjoying the conversation, laughing, sharing stories, and learning naturally at the same time. That's when you know you're making real progress, because English stops being a subject in school and starts being a tool for living your life.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite ways to make English part of everyday life is to connect it with your hobbies. If you love cooking, Watch English recipe videos or join cooking groups on social media where people post in English. If you like sports, read the latest news in English or listen to sports podcasts. If you're into movies, watch them in English and then talk about them with friends. When you mix English with something you already enjoy, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like fun.
And I think this also helps you remember vocabulary much faster. For example, if you're a football fan and you learn the phrase score a goal in the context of your favorite match, you're much more likely to remember it. That's because it's connected to something exciting and meaningful for you. Learning in context instead of memorizing random word lists is one of the best secrets to sounding natural. You're not just learning words, you're learning how and when to use them.
Exactly. And that's why I always tell learners to create personal English moments. These are situations you design for yourself to use English in a way that matters to you. For example, you could write a short diary entry in English every night about your day, or record a 1-minute video of yourself speaking in English about something you love. When you review these later, you can notice mistakes, improve them, and watch yourself get better over time.
That's such a powerful habit. And another secret I want to share is to practice small talk. I know that sounds simple, but small talk is the foundation of many conversations in English-speaking countries. It's the little things people say before they talk about bigger topics. For example, asking about the weather, commenting on the weekend, or talking about something you see around you. If you can handle small talk naturally, you can start conversations more easily and connect with people faster.
Yes, and small talk is actually a great chance to practice those natural expressions we talked about earlier. Instead of saying, "How are you?" every time, you could say, "How's it going?" or "How have you been?" Instead of just answering, "I'm fine," you could say, "I'm doing pretty well, thanks. How about you?" These little changes make you sound warmer and more
less
genuine.
stressful. Prepare a few questions or topics in advance. Think of 2 or 3 things you can always ask about, like food, travel, or hobbies. For example, have you tried any new restaurants lately? Or do you have any plans for the weekend? This way, you're never completely stuck when you meet someone new.
I like that idea, Sarah, because it removes the pressure. And speaking of pressure, one of the biggest challenges for learners is speaking naturally under stress, like in job interviews, presentations, or when meeting someone important. My advice is to practice calm English. That means slowing down, breathing, and using simple sentences. You don't have to impress people with complicated vocabulary. You just have to communicate clearly and confidently.
Yes, and you can practice this by role-playing with a friend. Pretend you're at a job interview or at a party and have them ask you questions. Even if you laugh and make mistakes, it's great practice because you're training your brain to respond in those situations. The more you practice in a safe environment, the more comfortable you'll be in real life.
Exactly. And here's another secret. Learn fillers and pausing phrases. Native speakers use them all the time when they need to think. Words like well, you know, actually, or let me think give you a second to organize your thoughts without going completely silent. For example, if someone asks you a question, instead of panicking, you can say, "Well, that's a good question," and then answer. It makes you sound more natural and gives you a moment to
native
think.
speakers sometimes don't finish their sentences perfectly, and that's okay. Conversation is messy, people change their minds mid-sentence, they interrupt themselves, they start again. If you expect your speech to be perfectly organized all the time, you'll be disappointed. Natural conversation is flexible, and it's okay if yours is too.
That's so true. And actually, sometimes your tone and attitude are even more important than your words. If you speak with energy and a friendly tone, people will enjoy talking to you. On the other hand, if your voice sounds bored or nervous, the conversation can feel awkward. So practicing intonation, the rise and fall of your voice, can help you sound more alive and confident.
Yes, intonation is key. For example, if you're asking a question, your voice usually goes up at the end. Are you coming? But if you're making a statement, your voice goes down. I'm coming. Paying attention to these small differences can make your English sound more natural. You can copy this by listening to short clips of native speakers and trying to match their tone exactly.
And while we're talking about copying, I think imitation is one of the most underrated techniques for learning natural English. Pick a favorite actor, YouTuber, or speaker and try to copy the way they talk. Not just the words, but the rhythm, the pauses, even the emotion. You're not trying to become them, you're just training your mouth and brain to move
And to make
like a
it
native
even
speaker.
more effective, you can record yourself while you do it. When you listen back, you can hear what sounds natural and what needs more work. At first, you might hate the sound of your own voice. I think we all do. But over time, you'll start to notice your progress. And that's very motivating.
Yes, and motivation is important because learning to speak naturally takes time. You won't wake up one day speaking perfect English without effort. But if you follow these secrets, thinking in English, listening more, learning real-life expressions, practicing small talk, using fillers, and copying native speakers, you'll see steady improvement.
And remember, we're not saying you should throw away grammar completely. Grammar is useful, but it should be in the background, supporting your communication, not controlling it. When you speak, focus on the message, the connection, and the feeling. Over time, your grammar will improve naturally.
Grammar is like
from
the
listening
frame of a
and
house.
practicing.
It's important, but it's not the part people see first. People notice the color, the furniture, the decorations. In English, that's your vocabulary, your tone, and your personality. If you put those things first, you'll make a stronger impression.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest secret of all. Be yourself when you speak English. Don't try to sound like a robot or someone you're not. Use your sense of humor, share your opinions, and let your personality come through. That's what makes conversation natural and enjoyable.
Well said, Sarah. And for everyone listening or watching, remember, speaking English naturally is not about being perfect, it's about being real. Start small, practice every day, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. If you keep going, you'll surprise yourself with how much you can do.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to click like, subscribe to our channel, and share this with a friend who's learning English. Every like, comment, and subscription really helps us keep creating these free lessons for you.
Thanks for joining us today. We can't wait to hear about your progress, so let us know in the comments. What's one secret from today's episode that you're going to try first? Until next time, keep practicing, keep smiling, and keep speaking English naturally.
Bye, everyone. See you in the next episode.